Dungeon World 2's new alpha just dropped, like right when I dropped this video, and I'm super excited because it's going to be a return to form to the original ideas of Dungeon World. Developers Spencer Moore and Helena Real really want to see what is going to click more, a dramatically radical sort of tabletop role-playing design or something more similar to the original Dungeon World. Now, I reached out to Helena Real with a couple of questions for the video on my main channel, which if you have no idea what I'm talking about, click right there. And if this is our first time meeting, hello, my name is Austin. I have a YouTube channel called Tabletop Bro. This is my second channel where I post non-tabletop related things or low effort content. Anyways, I asked Helena all of these questions and she's a busy lady, she has things to do. By the time she was able to respond and she gave great answers, I had finished making most of the video and I didn't really feel like redoing everything, especially because I really want to get this out by the time that the alpha drops on Wednesday, which is today for you, but it's in the future for me. Anyway, so rather than completely redo everything, I am just doing this. If you want to read the video and you don't want to hear my stupid voice read out everything, down below I will include a link. But in the meantime, let's see what we got here. So the first question that I asked Helena, straight to the point, what was the reasoning you and Spencer put together this Dungeon World Alpha Red that falls back on more traditional D&D design? I mean, I know there was community pushback to your initial vision. What's up? Was there any other motivation to explore a wholly different design? Helena says, back in April, when we started talking in more detail about the first alpha release, what we now call Dungeon World 2 Blue, we said many times that this was a true alpha, that we were in an experimental phase trying to see what we could come back with that felt congruent with our vision for Dungeon World 2 and our vision of what Dungeon World is/was. In this sense, our design process for Dungeon World 2 can be summarized like this. We talked for a few weeks about things we both like about Dungeon World 1, and more importantly, things we thought didn't work or that had aged poorly. Then we embarked on a lengthy stage of trying to find common answers to those problems. That's how we came up with all of the moves and the current version of the classes through internal playtesting, discussion, and iteration. As people were responding to Blue's previews, a lot of their commentary felt very thoughtful and on point, yours included. Ha ha! We immediately started talking about whether we could try and incorporate those needs into our answers to Dungeon World 1's faulty design, from our perspective, and the years of conversations in the Dungeon World community. Turns out we could, and so we did. We started collecting alternative takes on the Blue rules, and that is how Red was born. I know we live in an age of immediacy and instant gratification, but we don't think that game design works best in a reactive way. We had meditated on questions about Dungeon World 1 that led to Blue, and now we have new points of information to lead Blue in a new direction, at least for a bit. We're still in alpha. Some of the things in Red may not survive playtest, and that's okay. We will continue iterating and looking for better answers as long as we can. My second question, a lot of the people in the Dungeon World 2 discussion server last week were less than thrilled as they had come to really like the changes you and Spencer implemented. Did you guys expect this pushback? What are your thoughts? Helena said, we did. We know that people commenting a lot about Dungeon World 2, especially in the DW Plus Discord, are some of the most passionate fans of Dungeon World out there. I also believe that the people more open to Blue's designs are those who really wanted a major evolution between Dungeon World 1 and Dungeon World 2. They probably have played a lot of DW1 and a lot of the DW1 hacks, so they, like ourselves, were ready for a more radical approach. In that same sense, we expected those players to be the least invested in the cosmetic/superficial similarities between Dungeon World and D&D. We assume they've probably moved past D&D in some fashion, that they play a lot of different TTRPGs, and that they're well versed in PBTA/indie design. Because of this, we're counting on them to see past the D&D aesthetics of Red and maybe find some interesting new design using old tools. My third question is, one person even said that this Red versus Blue debate is really about the core identity of what Dungeon World is. What are your thoughts on this? Helena says, it's funny because I don't see Blue and Red in conflict at all. From my perspective, it's more or less the same vision, the same game design ethos expressed through two different lenses. They may appear extremely different in essence, but that's just that. appearance. We still believe that Dungeon World is a narrative fantasy PBTA about groups of peoples risking their lives together to have a better life and hopefully make the world a better place. That's the core of our vision, and that remains in the game's core moves, our approach to the different classes, and the group playbook, just to name a few. I think what the difference between blue and red actually illuminates is how much we attach ourselves to specific terminology / labels / ways of doing things. To use an example from outside Dungeon World, blue versus red feels as if people told me Deep Space Nine is the only true Star Trek, and the original series is the only true Star Trek. Personally, Austin speaking, I have never heard of anyone ever say Deep Space Nine is the only true Star Trek, but what do I know? I'm not a Trekkie. Anyway, back to Helena. And here I am thinking they're both Star Trek, and I like them both. Of course, I have a favorite, but that doesn't mean I can appreciate the good and the bad, as in the well or poorly executed things in both. I then said, more explicitly, what do you think makes Dungeon World Dungeon World? Helena says, I think that, in short, the Dungeon World core is about delivering the promise of D&D, from my perspective, heroic fantasy role-playing, in a better way than D&D ever could, or ever will, be able to achieve, which, that goes hard. I started with AD&D 2nd edition, I'm old, and I've played through every edition ever since. Plus a ton of OSR stuff. Even back in AD&D 2nd edition, me and my friends were all trying to tell heroic fantasy stories. We created characters that were interesting, dramatic, and as complex as 15-year-olds can imagine them. And our plots were heavy on the emotional connection between all of our characters, and with NPCs in the world at large. The problem is that the D&D rules didn't support this style of play. They never did, and they probably never will. That's what Dungeon World did so well back in the day, and that's what we're trying to achieve with Dungeon World 2 for a new audience. To support a style of play that mixes up action, drama, and high stakes. To hopefully support all types of different fantasy flavors and subgenres, allowing players to have a set of rules that helps them get in those dramatic moments consistently, to skip the boring parts, and to create everlasting memories about imagined events. I then said, what are you looking to see come from this development in the alpha? Helena said, my dream would be to end up with a beta that we as designers and most of our audience are super excited about, with all the essential rules in place and the gameplay as smooth as melted butter. From there, we can start adding classes and other additional mechanics, as well as supporting the game with tons of material, monsters, adventures, etc. I then asked, what's your favorite character class? She then said, I love some good drama and all things goth, so of course it is any witch/warlock that has deals with nefarious things but uses those wicked, ill-begotten powers for good. I then asked, will there be design integration with beloved supplements such as Class Warfare, Grimworld, or Perilous Wilds? She said, we love all of those. Spencer was actually in a panel at Gen Con with some of those designers. But we believe that we cannot have as one of our core game design tenets to be compatible with old third-party materials. Our responsibility, we think, is to deliver a new Dungeon World that maybe those designers or others are interested in designing material for. I ask a very rigorous journalistic question here. Is it true that you and Spencer are really just grifters trying to make a quick buck off the Dungeon World IP and that you're actually terrible people? In case the tone doesn't come over text, I'm totally kidding, because this is a ridiculous assumption that some people in my comments of my last video have said. Sadly, as far as I can tell, neither Spencer nor myself are grifters. I'd love to be one. It sounds like a lot less work, but even then, there's no money in tabletop role-playing games. I cannot emphasize that enough, as Austin. When people said that in my first Dungeon World 2 video, I'm like, brother, if they wanted to be grifters, they wouldn't get into the tabletop role-playing game business. There is no money here whatsoever. Back to Helena. On a more serious note, we've been working our asses off for almost a year now, and the end is nowhere in sight. Dungeon World 2 has become a huge part of my life, and I'm happy and grateful for it, but it's no easy job. Moreover, people who think that way should ask themselves, what's a better way to run a grift? To write thousands of words and tinker with them for months on end to come up with like the best game possible, or to change a couple of things around, send the books to print, and collect a paycheck. Even without being a grifter, I can imagine that grifting is all about doing the least work possible, not the most. Finally, I ask, is there anything else you wish to talk about that I didn't cover with these questions / any message you want to get out there? Helena said, I'd like to personally thank once again everyone in the audience, me included, haha, that's me Austin, Tabletop Pro, who's been so passionate and outspoken about what they want out of Dungeon World 2. Your comments have been so incredibly useful and illuminating, and I've learned a hell of a lot about myself and game design during this process. I can only hope that by the end of this journey, we can all end up happy with a new game we can play for years and years to come. That is the extent of the interview. I hope you found that interesting, valuable, useful, whatever. Thank you so much for watching this channel. If you have no idea what I'm talking about in terms of the main stuff, click right here. I'll take you to the main video. And thank you so much. I'm not going to do the outro. This is the second low effort channel. Whatever. Goodbye. It's been fun. Hi.